All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Orange Crush Podcast, another edition of Fridays with Faxon, where we tell you the right way to move with these football games, and Faxon puts on his groove. We've got a little bit of a streak going in the last few weeks with Mr. Childress over here to my right. Before we get started, catch the audience up on what you've been up to, man. How are you doing?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Just continuing to grind away, with my show every day on the flagship station, doing Tiger Tailgate for Clemson football, and then ESPN Plus broadcasts for all the different sports in the area. It's about getting to that busy time where you're probably going to see me with bags under my eyes for the majority of these Orange Crush podcasts going forward. But best job in the world, man. I love every single second of it, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. So excited to be here again on the Orange Crush podcast, and I've had a really good track record on this pod for teams not named Clemson. My Clemson takes have been whiffs for the most part thus far, and maybe some wish casting last week against Syracuse, hoping they would turn things around. But everything else I've been pretty spot on. So you take your wins with your losses, Grayson.
I think I've shot you a text on Saturday night for the last few weeks going, holy crap, dude, you've really found a way to just, we've had some differences in the last few weeks, which is good. And especially with that Illinois pick in Indiana, Fernando Mendoza put them in the grave. Drug them into the Earth's crust, and we'll be talking about them later, but there's just so much to get into. Before we get started, I always want to give you the opportunity to give a little bit of a Clemson take, because I know you're usually the one welcoming people on your show, giving their thoughts. You did the thing with me on Thursday, but Clemson's 1-3. They got North Carolina and Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson, I guess, facing off next week. Any thoughts on just where Clemson is right now and your expectations in Chapel Hill against Chapel Bill?
Yeah, obviously things aren't going great right now for the Tigers, coming off a rough loss to Syracuse this past weekend at home. And, I thought that was more effort related than anything, just to be candid. It's what I talked about pretty consistently on my show throughout the course of this week, but you got a chance to put it behind you with the bye week, and you got an opponent that's not very quality in North Carolina, right? So Tigers open up as a 13.5-point favorite on DraftKings. I think it's 12.5 on FanDuel, right around 2 touchdowns, no matter how you slice it. North Carolina's average margin of defeat against the Power 4 right now is at about 27 points a game. They just got blown out by 25 against a UCF team that's okay, and then TCU, who's pretty good on their home field in week 1 by 28. So it's not a good football team that Clemson's going to be playing up at Chapel Hill this upcoming Saturday, or next Saturday rather. But, the Tigers still have to go out there and execute, or anybody in the country can beat them, as we've seen thus far. So going to withhold my opinions until next week's edition as far as predictions go. But the Tigers need to turn the vibes around for sure and start to put up some more points.
Yeah, it sounds like North Carolina's got to do the same on that front, but we'll be saving the Chapel Bill jokes, all the Belichick Sweeney Clash stuff for next week. Just wanted to get a little bit of a slight preview. But really, what's amazing, Faxon, is you and I are primarily focused on the Clemson side of things. And so when we have a bye and we get to kind of take that Saturday, not off because we're still watching football, digesting plenty of information, but they give us a great week of college football. And it starts tonight, but obviously, we'll get to some of the main heavy hitters, but I do want to start with one in the ACC that I do think is going to be more interesting than maybe folks will give it credit for. Florida State on a Friday night trip to Charlottesville to play Virginia, a Virginia team that's undefeated, a Virginia team that seemingly gets better every single year under Tony Elliott, but also an FSU team that's sort of found its swagger with your guy, Tommy C, trying to figure out if they're destined for a trip to Charlotte this year. Where does your head on this? I feel like this is a game where Virginia and Chandler Morris, it's going to be relatively close just because Friday night games are always tough. You're playing on a shorter week. You're playing with a different kind of evaluation. It's sort of like the Thursday night rule of thumb with the NFL where it's a little bit of a sloppier football game, but usually the better team finds a way to win. I would expect FSU to get this one, but I think Virginia will probably keep this close.
Yeah, I'd spread at 6.5 right now, and I think that's probably fair. You look at Virginia, and their one blip on the radar was the fact that they couldn't stop NC State, right? They lost that game 35-31, and they really had every opportunity to win it. Morris threw a pick towards the end of the game that was a bit unlucky, and you got an L on your resume as a result of it. Now, it's not a conference L because that was the week 2 game between 2 ACC teams. That does not count for the conference. Weird, but I guess respect for scheduling it, right? So I think Florida State wins and covers. I think I'm at 41-28 FSU over UVA. I trust UVA's ability to score. I think Morris is legit. I love what Tony Elliott's been able to establish as their identity this year on the offensive side of the ball. Watch out for their wide receiver in Trell Harris. He's a really, really talented player as well. So I think they're going to move the ball, and I think they're going to score. I just don't think that they can stop this Florida State offense that's been a juggernaut through 3 games. And albeit the last 2 against inferior competition, they still looked pretty darn good against Alabama in the opener. And Castellanos has hit his stride with the supporting cast. So provided FSU stays on schedule, they can manage down in distance, they can get the power run game going early and use Sawchuk as that goal line back to kind of put the icing on the cake and cap off the touchdown drives. I think the Seminoles handle business tonight. Give me Florida State 41-28.
There you go. 41-28 Norvell, rocking and rolling in what feels like a bounce back year for him. I remember we were having conversations in Charlotte in July when he was going on like a tantrum, it felt like, on the podium. That was a man who was fired up and ready to go for his team, but clearly they have responded in a big way. And so it's been fun watching FSU beat up on the junior colleges of the world, but it's time to get back into action against UVA. I would love to sort of get your opinion. I don't think Clemson fans may appreciate this, just to stick on this a little longer. What's sort of the target for Tony Elliott this year in your mind? Because it seems like they're getting better. They were competing in a lot of games. They had a few marquee upsets along the way. Where is that next step for the Cavaliers? Because it feels like Elliott has seemingly raised the bar every single year, where Virginia's doing slightly better. But what is that next step for this kind of program?
Yeah, I think it's, consistently making a bowl game and also consistently at least showcasing some level of contention within your league, right? I mean, Tony, given the tragedy and given just the uphill nature of that job in general, with some recruiting struggles, with how, premier of an academic institution it is, and with the way that UVA doesn't necessarily prioritize athletics all the time, as it's more of an academics-oriented institution. I think Tony E's up against the odds every game he coaches, right? Coaching at Virginia, but he's done a phenomenal job so far, and I think that next building block is to win 8 games in a season. If you can get to 8 wins in a season, you could get to a bowl game and potentially get to 9. That starts to breed the conversations of, okay, how can we start to flirt with double digits? What's the next step for this program? So I keep your eye on Tony E this year and these Who's. I think they can get to 7 or 8, and I really like the offense. And Morris looks like a freaking stud, man. Kid's a rock star.
Yeah, the kid from North Texas. Shout out McGregor Man and the North Texas Dynasty in CFB 26 if he's watching. But Faxon, we'll move to another Friday game. TCU, you mentioned them earlier. Josh Hoover's been on a tear. They're facing a Sam Leavitt and Arizona State team that has had a little bit of an early season lull against a Mississippi State team that I think might be better than folks give them credit for. But Sam Leavitt and the defending Big 12 champions facing a pretty tall task against this TCU team that has seemingly lit the world on fire so far this year. Where's your head on this?
I'm conflicted. I think I'm going to pick Arizona State to win the football game tonight, and I think that Arizona State's probably the better team here. I understand that TCU's had a really nice start. Hoover's the quarterback that Garrett Riley recruited out of high school to TCU. And, Tom Allen actually had Hoover committed as well when he was the head coach at Indiana. So, there's some cool crossover there I saw Blau tweet out something about that yesterday. So shout out to Blau if he's watching. But yeah, there's obviously a lot of Clemson ties with Hoover at quarterback, and I think he's a really talented player. I got a lot of respect for Sonny Dykes and his acumen, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I just think Arizona State's better. I think they're more complete. I think they have more depth. I think they have more comfort in their identity. And I think that loss to Mississippi State is going to be looked back on as Mississippi State is better than people realize, less than Arizona State, choked or whatever against inferior competition. So give me Arizona State tonight. I think they're going to win 35-33 in a barn burner that goes down to the wire. But give me Dilly Dilly and the Sun Devils pulling it out in Tempe. Yep.
I like that old Bud Light reference to that commercial back in the day. ASU, interesting squad here. We're not talking specifically about Mississippi State playing Tennessee, but I do think that's going to be a pretty close game over there in Starkville Saturday afternoon. But moving forward to the Saturday slate that is as stacked as you can get, I actually cannot wait to get my butt planted on a couch and turning on a TV. It's going to be a great weekend, great college football on Saturday. Drake May is going to get a W on Sunday. It's going to be amazing. I know you're into Bryce Young FC guy, so we're kind of divided this weekend.
For sure.
We'll focus on that later. For now, we got to talk about a USC team traveling to Illinois, who's reeling from a pretty disastrous loss. My ball nowhere card was sort of in flux there for a second. It was getting pulled away from me. I was able to secure it back. That was a real disastrous moment. But the Trojans trying to figure it out under Lincoln Riley, getting the brothers mixed up here. But I really like USC in this. I think my estimation on Illinois was probably a little bit off, and I think they're facing a Trojans team that's figured it out on both sides of the football.
Yep.
I like USC on the road here.
I like USC to win the game. I think there's a chance Illinois plays a little bit more inspired than people anticipate, and they cover that number at 6.5 or 7. I think this is going to be a competitive football game. Michigan State put up 31 points last week on this USC defense. I do think they've taken an exponential step forward with Deanson Lynn as the defensive coordinator out in Los Angeles, and I think I said Garrett as well. I think Lincoln made a great hire.
I'm tripping you up, man. I'm sorry.
Too, man. Like, it's crazy. But obviously, Lincoln Riley's done such a phenomenal job in his career as a head coach, developing quarterbacks, putting up explosive numbers on offense. And, Maeva is kind of the next guy, in my opinion, that could follow that path. I don't think he's got the natural tools that some of these other Lincoln Riley quarterbacks have had, but he's got a really good feel and a really good IQ, and he's certainly better than Miller Moss, who you were rolling with for the majority of last year. So I think that Lincoln really just kind of stuck out with the loyalty to Miller Moss last year. Maeva's the better player, and it's not even close. They've got a couple Frisbee catching dogs and Lemon and Lane as their two premier wide receivers. I like the Trojans to go on the road and get one done. Give me 31-27. Illinois with a more competitive showing than people realize, but USC prevails. Some weird travel and time element in there too, so I think Illinois keeps it close.
Yeah, it's this Big Ten expansion schedule where you're traveling across the country for breakfast ball. It's a little bit wacky. I think this game starts at 11 because it's the Central Time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So you're still playing. People are going to be waking up to this at a little bit past breakfast ball there. But here's a game facts I'm going to throw at you. I don't think Washington's going to win this football game, but I do think you mentioned wacky travel with this conference. Mm-hmm. Ohio State's going to Washington. They're going to Seattle to play a really good Washington team that's sort of figuring it out. There's been sort of teams that I think have been swept behind the scenes because there's not the Oregons, the Penn States, the Ohio States, the Michigans. Washington sort of has sat in the background since they've joined the Big Ten. Ohio State, this feels like a tricky trap game for a loaded roster that maybe gets caught tripping. I don't think Washington wins this game, but I do think people get – I could see being on my phone, a notification pops up. It's like, oh, this is a close game. Might as well tune into this before I plop my head down for a little mid-afternoon nap on Saturday. What say you with Seattle's the result in Seattle?
Yeah, I think Damon Williams Jr., the quarterback for Washington, is a freaking rock star. I think he's one of the best players in the country, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Jed Fish does a really good job conducting his program and having his guys prepared on a week-to-week basis. And, Washington has a ridiculous home win streak that they're riding right now, which I don't think they have any intention to give up. But now, I will say there's a couple elements to this, right? The two best players in the country play for Ohio State, and Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Smith, the safety and wide receiver, respectively. But this is Julian Sain's first career road start. He threw 2 picks last week against Ohio, and I don't know. They've been using Lincoln Kienholz, the backup quarterback, in a couple different short yardage packages. I wonder if that's something that translates here in this matchup against the Washington Huskies. But I tend to believe that Washington's going to lose close. I like Ohio State to win this one 27-24, 27-21, something in that range where Washington gives them a run for their money, but we come away saying, man, Ohio State got away with one, but they're going to be better for it. I think Sayin needs this taste of a true road environment to kind of fully integrate himself as the Ohio State quarterback, because guess what? With the aspirations they have this year, you're going to have to go on the road and win some big-time games. You're going to have to play under the bright lights in the conference championship and in the college football playoff, and you have to be able to rise to that occasion, and nobody else is there to save you, right? It's just you versus you at that point. So hyper-fixated on Sayin and his performance this weekend. I want to see how he handles the pressure, but I think the Buckeyes prevail close.
Talk about road environments. I don't think you can get a better taste of something very hostile. And it was one of the more underrated college football venues that Washington plays at. We've seen them with a few years ago when Oregon came to town. It was Bo Nix at the time, and the Oregon Ducks going against Michael Penix and the Washington Huskies. That was a fun one, back and forth. Great environment, great crowd. I would expect nothing less. It's just talent-wise, I think Washington's a little bit behind the 8 ball here. Just Ohio State's got the best roster seemingly in the country. But that's up for debate for sure. Okay, this one's fun. And we won't talk about the TMZ side of things where certain players are dating certain girlfriends, certain coaches' daughters. It's just a matter of it's not my job to cover. But I will say, does it make it that much more interesting? Absolutely. LSU offense is still trying to figure it out. Ole Miss looks pretty good. It's just one of those teams that I can never trust Lane Kiffin in a big spot, but is he playing for little family rights here? Is he trying to avenge some sort of deal, Faxon? Am I reading too much into it? This one just feels like a fun back and forth clash. I know Clemson fans will probably be watching the LSU in that factor, see how truly good they are. This is a big test for LSU. Before we get back to this video, we'd like to thank the title sponsor for this podcast, Newton, Scott, and Associates. This team is headlined by Jeff Scott, former Clemson assistant coach and two-time national champion, as well as Eric Newton, a longtime local and trusted real estate partner. These two are teaming up to provide a first-class experience for all Clemson fans. Whether you're looking to buy, sell, or build in the upstate area of South Carolina, you can trust Newton, Scott, and Associates. Choose the same team that Clemson coaches are selecting when they're looking to buy, sell, or build, all the way from Tigertown to Lake Kiowee. For more information, you can find them at newtonscottsc.com or by calling the number 864-722-9062. That's 864-722-9062. Now, let's get back to the video.
Yeah, it's definitely a big test for LSU. And anytime you're having to go on the road to Oxford, that's going to come with an onslaught of challenges, rowdy crowd. Somebody kind of made a point that I found interesting a little bit earlier this week, which is that, and it was my co-host John Hyden, he said, Ole Miss fans care a lot more about this game than LSU fans. And I think he's 100% correct with that takeaway. And I think he's 100% correct with that assessment on the situation, right? It's a really intriguing and interesting matchup for an onslaught of reasons. And another one of those reasons is we don't even know who's playing quarterback for Ole Miss, right? Is it going to be Chambliss, the D2 transfer that's lit the world on fire, or are they going back to Austin Simmons, who had a negative touchdown interception ratio in 2 games against Georgia State and Kentucky? I think Chambliss is just the better player. I think it's pretty obvious to look at when you're watching the game. And when you also have to account for the fact that LSU has struggled so mightily the last 3, 4, 5 seasons against rushing quarterbacks, I think it would be ignorant of Lane Kiffin to do anything other than start Chambliss, who gives you that true dual threat ability, in addition to the fact that he's explosive with his arm in the passing game. So, to be honest, I'm not confident either side. I could really see this one going either way. And I'm honest with y'all, right? When I'm confident, like Florida State over Bama or Indiana over Illinois, I dig my feet in and I stand on my take. This is not one where I have a lot of confidence either side. I picked LSU in our Roar pick'em. I guess I'll pick LSU on the show, but this is one that I'm just more excited to watch than really opinionated about, because I think we're going to get a lot of answers on both of these football teams.
I think LSU's defense specifically, it's that first big test, because I think a lot of folks probably after that Clemson game, at least at the time, thought, wow, LSU's defense, that's pretty good. That's a great unit that just shut down a Clemson offense that everyone had high expectations for. That opinion has certainly flipped in the last several weeks. So another big step for LSU, Blake Baker and that defense to try to continue to figure this out and see if Brian Kelly can get his team to the college football playoff. This feels like one of those games for both teams just because of the nature of the SEC. Still got to play a lot of really great teams. This is when you got to win if you're going to try to create some margin for error when it comes to the SEC slate. I like LSU. I'm going to take the defense. Especially if you got a game like this and there's quarterback uncertainty, I tend to stay away from that. And I'm going to take a team in LSU that's got a little bit more continuity on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and I think I've seen more against LSU against upper echelon competition, or at least what was deemed upper echelon competition in the preseason, with some talented rosters, right? So I'm going to bank on the fact that Nussmeier is the more experienced quarterback who beat this team last year in an OT thriller, can get it done.
Yeah, I like LSU in this one. This one's a fun one too. I think won't be as watched as some of the ones we'll talk about later or discussed, but Auburn plays Texas A&M in College Station on Saturday. Jackson Arnold talking smack to Oklahoma fans on his way out. Can he get some redemption? How about that, by the way? Wish you were me. Like some fans just point at, like, me? Okay. I guess it's just one of those situations that is – I love the transfer portal specifically for that, because we get these small moments where players now are returning to their former homes that they chose, and all of a sudden the fan base becomes public enemy number one. It's just wacky. But I like A&M here. A&M's kind of hit under the radar for a little bit. Auburn, Hugh Freeze aren't quite there yet as a program, and I've never been a big Jackson Arnold guy. So another hostile environment, a tough road game. Auburn's better, but I don't think they're that upper echelon quite yet.
Yeah, I like Texas A&M here. Really like Texas A&M in the preseason, as you know, Grayson. Love Marcel Reed. Think he's a really good player. That's continuing to develop as a passer. He's super dynamic with his legs. He's got that Lamar Jackson look and feel to him because he's so agile in the open field. But where he differs from Lamar Jackson and has throughout the course of his career is arm talent and just generally being a passer of the football, which I'll remain. Lamar's like the most underrated thrower of the football ever. I don't know why that's a narrative still. Lamar's really freaking good. But Reed's got a long ways to go with his arm. They've got two really good receivers in Concepcion and Carver that have lit it up this season. They're yak demons. They're dangerous every single time they have the ball in their hands. And I think Texas A&M's just got too much, right? Kyle Field, home of the 12th man. All the Aggies are going to be rowdy, especially for a game against Auburn. That's an opponent they don't like in the slightest. So I like Texas A&M here, and I feel like they're going to be able to put some points up on the board as well. Give me the Aggies 30-23 with a cover at 6.5 over Auburn. I do think Auburn might score late to make it look a little more competitive than it was, and I still do believe that Auburn will be able to keep the majority of their games competitive, right? Because they kind of got hosed last week, if we're being honest, by the refs in that Oklahoma matchup. But you got to put it behind you and find a way to respond, and that's what we're going to find out about Hugh Freeze's football team this weekend.
And you see the comments he made earlier today about, can we get the Packers or the Chiefs on a schedule just because of the permanent opponents they announced? I mean, poor Auburn, man, can never seem to dig themselves out of the rut. It's just a tough sledding for them specifically.
For sure.
Okay, now we're going on to what I like to call the big ones, the fun ones, the big clashes. The multi-view will never be more used than it is on Saturday night. We're going to start with the first one. Whiteout in, getting excited talking about this. Oregon and Penn State, two of the best teams in the country, clashing for what will be one of the more electric college atmospheres. Great opponents. I like Oregon here. Dante Moore, I like him better than Drew Aller. I think Oregon's defense is going to be the decisive factor here. I know that Oregon hasn't played anybody, but the same can be said about Penn State. They've both been beating up on junior colleges and technical colleges and whatever you want to call it. It's going to be the first true test for both of these. I think there was a comment from Sweeney a few weeks ago where certain teams are waiting. The way they've scheduled it, you get exposed at different points of the season. I think this is where Penn State gets exposed. I like Oregon in this spot. I think they're a much better football team. I've never been high on Drew Aller. I think Penn State, their kind of run last year was a little bit fraudulent with the way they were able to score up against a Boise State team. A little too much hype, similar to Clemson in that mind. I like Oregon here big.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I like Oregon big, but I do like Oregon. I'm a little conflicted on how to feel. I like Penn State a heck of a lot more than you like Penn State, but I liked Penn State for similar reasons to why I liked Clemson coming into this year, which was, man, this team really hit their stride at the end of last year, and they've got everybody coming back. So logic led me to believe, well, it's a physical football team that we saw on the biggest stage impose their physicality and will and toughness up front on the O-line and on the D-line. Now they've got Jim Knowles as the defensive coordinator. Why would they not be able to do the same this year? And albeit against, ITT Tech and Chattanooga Tech, it just hasn't been the case, man. Like, I know that the scoreboard says one thing, but they've been like a 4-yard per carry type team for the majority of these games if you take away a couple explosive runs. And that's just not acceptable against the level of competition that they played thus far. So this is a big test for both sides. I also do think there's something to be said about Dante Moore's first big start at Oregon going on the road, right? Whiteout environment. Are the lights going to be too bright? I think is a fair question to ask, but coach for coach in a big game, I'm taking Lanning over Franklin. And at the end of the day, I think they've got the better quarterback and better football team. So I know Penn State's a 3.5-point favorite. I think that's fair given the environment and the preseason billing and the talent, and Singleton and Allen and those backs are just unbelievable. But in a rematch of the Big Ten title game last year, I like the same result, and the Oregon Ducks taking the cake.
Yeah, Oregon looking to see if they can find a way to reclaim that spot in the college football playoff and then find themselves not drawing up against the national champion Ohio State Buckeyes in the quarterfinal. I'm glad that they've fixed that system just a tad to see if we can avoid a disastrous result like that in the Rose Bowl of all places. Such a beautiful spot. Shouldn't be a blowout. Just made me sad last year. Just did. But another one, the multi-view. As I stated before, you're going to be floating back from game to game. I wish YouTube TV would make the screens a little bit bigger. There's so much empty space on the top and the bottom. Yeah. And it just bothers me because I feel like I'm squinting half the time, but it's okay. for this weekend alone, I will allow it. Alabama travels to UGA, travels to Athens to face off against the Bulldogs. Last year, I remember a bunch of people in the press room were watching this game. We're waiting for player interviews. Were you there for this? I don't know if you were, but we had like a circle of people, and 3 people had streams on their phone trying to watch this game. And I think 3 different people caught that Ryan Williams touchdown where he pressed the B button twice.
Yeah.
In like 3 separate moments. It was one of the more electric post-game streams of my life. And I'm hoping we get another one like this. I like Georgia in this spot. Gunnar Stockton, I think his play, especially in Tennessee a few weeks ago, really impressed me in just the way that I thought he was fine in the playoff game. But the way he's responded, the way he's put this offense and been in control and command, it's been impressive. And against Tennessee, a really good Tennessee team, that environment's nothing to scoff at. He's going to be back home. He's going to be comfortable. There's still a lot of questions about this Alabama team. They got their lunch money taken away from them from the Fighting Faxon Childresses of Florida State. And so I like to think Georgia wins this one. I don't think it's going to be this blowout. I think Alabama will play inspired, to coin a word you used earlier. I like Georgia, better football team, but I do think DeBoer has these guys ready to go, and it's going to be another fight to the finish here with these 2 squads.
Yeah, I tend to believe this can be a close game. I think that week 1 had more to do about Florida State than it did about Bama at the end of the day. Like, I think Bama is still a pretty good football team. Ty Simpson's been a little bit better than anticipated. They got Jam Miller back into the fray, which has given a nice boost to their run game as well. As far as the other side of the coin with Georgia, I love this team. I love Gunnar Stockton. I was calling for him last year. I think the kid's uber talented. I love Zachariah Branch. I love London Humphreys. I think this is the best supporting cast they've had at UGA in a while. I think Mike Bobo is a really underrated offensive coordinator. I know we get our jokes off. I know Georgia fans have had their gripes throughout the course of the years. Their offense has been freaking electric this year and put up 44 on the road in Knoxville, Tennessee against a damn talented defense for those Volunteers. So I like Georgia here between the hedges at home. Kirby Smart's never beat Alabama in the regular season. He's 1-6 against Bama with his lone win coming in that national championship game back in 2022. So that's the only reason I have a little bit of hesitation here is because this has been a bogey opponent, but at home, under the lights, prime time. Gunner's a big-time player making big-time plays already. Give me the Dogs.
Give me the Dogs. That's really strange, the stat right there, 1-6.
He's 1-6 with his only win coming in a national championship game. So funnily enough, the biggest stage he's ever coached against Bama on, he won. So 1-1 in Natties, 0-5 in all other games. And I want to say 0-3 regular season, 0-2 SEC championship game, 1-1 Natty. I think that's right.
Yeah, because they had the Tua walk-off to start. They've played in the SEC championship.
They lost the Tua walk-off. They've lost 2 SEC championship games to them because they lost the one to Milroe and they lost one other one. And then they've lost all 3 in the regular season, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, because that second SEC championship, that's when Jalen Hurts came back in, your guy.
Yep.
Philadelphia Super Bowl champion. May I remind the audience of Jalen Hurts, but a big weekend for a lot of facts and narratives, guys. I just wanted to sort of introduce some things for y'all. It's a big weekend for Carson Wentz in Dublin over. Gonna have to get up bright and early for that one, man. And then your guy Bryce Young is going to be going to the trenches in Foxborough. It's a big week. Lots going on.
Big week in the National Football League, but yeah, no, it's not a big week for Carson Wentz. I mean, this is the expectation. This is just going 1-0. They're going to roll the ball out and they're going to win by 20 again. So 48-10 in the first game of the Wentz era up in Minnesota, and I'm expecting more of the same. And then I think Bryce Young and the Bad News Bears of the practice squad at wide receiver are going to take care of your Patriots because I think they're the better football team. So a lot on the line this weekend.
Oh, boy. I actually told my brother not to pick Pittsburgh, and I think it was like a pick'em thing. I was like, don't pick Pittsburgh. I think Minnesota's going to win that game.
Yeah, I think they're going to get destroyed. Just to be honest, I think it's going to be pretty ugly for Pittsburgh across the pond. Minnesota's defense, dude, watch out.
Brian Flores, man. Oof.
Watch out, man. They got the personnel, too, and then Broderick Jones, one of the worst tackles in the league. He's going to be matched up against elite edge play, and the interior D-line's playing well. The secondary's flying to the football. Like, Wentz's life is easy, man. They're getting Jordan Addison back this week as well.
I don't know if there are any Falcons fans still watching, and if you are still watching, please subscribe for more. But if you guys are any Falcons fans in the building, I know it's super easy to diagnose an Arthur Smith-led offense. I mean, after New England kind of settled down, Pittsburgh could barely move the football. It was a lot of the same plays, same concepts. Florida's going to eat that offense alive. Poor Aaron Rodgers going overseas twice to get killed. I think it was against Minnesota last year too, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I want to say that that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. But before we let you go, Fax, I know you're ready to probably take a well-deserved nap after this week. Do you
I
have
got
any final Clemson thoughts, college football thoughts before we go? Any preview for our golf game tomorrow? What's on your mind? I'm just gonna leave the floor open to you.
Don't expect a good performance from me on the course tomorrow because I suck. I've only played 18 holes twice in my life. If you made it to the end of the video, I will take any and all golf advice at Faxon PXP on Twitter because I'm looking to get better, looking to get more into it. So that's going to be a fun weekend with the boys, including Grayson this weekend. We're just excited to watch a great slate of games on Saturday and the same to be said on Sunday, man. I know a lot of people are down in the dumps right now about the team, about the program. I think a lot of the complaints are valid and understandable. So I'm hoping that Clemson can use this bye week to hit the reset button and kind of rewrite the narrative on this season. And post bye week, starting up in Chapel Hill is a big favorite because that team sucks. So if you can't beat North Carolina, you got some big time problems.
Would it be interesting to declare that one a must win? Just because
no. That is what this is.
Yeah, that UNC team. I watched their 2 games back. And outside of that TCU first drive that kind of fooled us all into thinking, oh, this could be something. Whew. I don't really tend to watch Charlotte and Richmond as data points because it's Charlotte and Richmond. No offense to Charlotte and Richmond fans. But, man, Belichick, not fun. Not a great start up there. Mm-hmm. And poor Ludacris has to perform a concert at 9:45 for like 10 people.
Luda!
You caught me off guard there. But, Fax, any more thoughts before we get going?
No, nothing else from me. I think we're going to end the streak today, me doing something stupid on camera. But, maybe for next
time.
Week. We'll save that for We'll save that for game weeks. I'm just excited for the games this weekend. I think we got a lot of quality matchups on the horizon, and looking forward to it for sure. One game we didn't mention, or two ACC games we didn't mention before I get out the door: Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and Duke and Syracuse. Rather, Duke's headed up to face new quarterback Ricky Collins of that Syracuse team that just beat Clemson. I think there's a lot of intrigue there because Mensa, Duke's QB, is arguably the best in the conference/country. I mean, he's been unbelievable. I think the Blue Devils win there, and then Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, there's like massive thunderstorms in the area. That one could get really weird and ugly. So just keep your eye out there. Don't be surprised if that's one that's delayed from the noon slate later into the afternoon. I had somebody call on my show this morning that's going to be there. Wake Forest has good lines of scrimmage play. I've said that all season because it's the truth. Grayson, guess who is given their quarterback the most time to throw in the country right now on dropbacks?
Is it Wake?
It's Wake.
Robbie Ashford, look at that.
The problem is their quarterback sucks, and Robbie Ashford can't complete a forward pass. So I think they're playing the wrong quarterback in Winston-Salem. I think they should go with the Charlotte transfer into Sean Purdy. But Wake's a little bit better than people realize. They've got a really nice infrastructure on the lines of scrimmage. They've got a really good running back in Damon Claiborne. And while I love Georgia Tech and had them in the playoff preseason, I don't think they're going to roll the ball out and blitzcream everyone in the ACC slate. I think there's going to be a couple of these spots where they could get given a game. Keep your eye on that if it's rainy and muddy this weekend. Wake could make that more competitive, and they could cover that 14-point spread.
Yeah, and your guy Philo isn't playing, so of course they're not going to walk through everybody. It's the wrong quarterback in the flats, man. It's disappointing.
Robbie Ashford versus Haynes King. We hate this. We hate it.
Worst, terrible. Avert your eyes. Get that delay out there as quick as possible.
Get ready to learn QB run, buddy.
Oh, QB draw. The wear and tear, the all red. It's just gross. But guys, thank you as always for tuning in to Fridays with Fax. And he didn't do any dance moves, so please don't unsubscribe because I know that's what you all wanted to see. Disappointment across the board. But actually, no, Fax, you do a great job, man. Before we get going, plug your stuff. Tell them where you can find you, and we'll leave it at there.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Faxon PXP, at Faxon Sports, either of those. Same over on Instagram at Faxon Childress and at Faxon Sports. Tune into my show from 9 a.m. to noon every Monday through Friday on 105.5, 97.5 The Roar. You can also go to theroarfm.com, or you can download the Roar app to check us out on the podcast after the fact as well, which is what a lot of people do because I know 9 a.m. to noon is a traditional work time, right? But just really appreciate everybody that tunes into the podcast every week. Thank you, Grayson, for the opportunity and the platform as always. And let's hope we have a good weekend this weekend in comparison to last weekend.
It's always going to be a good weekend, man. The sun will rise. You'll wake up with a roof over your head. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Guys, thank you as always. Let us know what you think about tomorrow's golf match. Will Faxon shoot a hole-in-one on every single shot? I think so. I think it could happen. He's like Hawkeye out there. Tiger Woods with Toby Corsten. And me and Griffin will try to figure it out on that end. But guys, thank you as always. God bless y'all. Have a good